Today we're going to learn about polyhedrons. So polyhedrons, specifically, we're going to learn about prisms and pyramids. Now, both prisms and pyramids have one thing in common, is that they are polyhedrons because they're constructed entirely of polygons. So when I hold up this guy, we refer to that as a cube typically. It's actually, what we'll call it today is a rectangular pyramid. You don't have a measuring tape to know for sure that it's square. However, this is a unique rectangular prism because it is all the sides, the lateral faces and the bases are all congruent squares. So it would be considered a cube, but we'll call it a rectangular prism. And so there's the correct spelling of rectangular prism. And what makes it a prism is that it has two congruent bases and then four lateral faces. You'll note it's rectangular because it's got a rectangle base, and then it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 lateral faces. Those are the faces that go around it. And that's going to be consistent with all prisms. And I'm going to hold up a couple of other prisms real quick. You can see this one, all the faces as I turn it, they're all rectangular. All the faces as I turn it are all rectangular. So that's going to be a prism as well. And then again, so you can see all the faces are rectangular. Now we work about pyramids. So a pyramid, a lot of people say, oh, it's a pyramid because it's pointy at the top. And that totally makes sense that you would recognize it that way. But we want to make sure we understand what composes it to make it a pyramid. And so its composition is pretty clear. It only has one base. And then all of its lateral faces, okay, those are the sides that you see, they're all constructed of triangles. So no matter what the base shape is, the lateral faces of a pyramid will always be triangles because it meets up to the middle to that pointy top that we referred to. So what's interesting is, again, we'll name it by its shape of its base. So this would be a rectangular prism, and this would be a rectangular pyramid. See, sometimes people mix up pyramids and they want to call them all triangular because they see those lateral faces. So we need to know the shape of the base in order to name our pyramids. So I'll show you a couple other pyramids, and again, when you look at the pyramids, you can see that they've got triangular lateral faces. And it's not always super clear how many triangular lateral faces it has as I rotate it. And that's okay right now because what we're going to do is we're going to know it by looking at its base. All right, so we'll talk more about that in a moment. So again, this is a rectangular pyramid because its base is a rectangle. Now, some people might call it a square pyramid, which would be okay, as long as they're absolutely certain it's a square. So a lot of times when we look at images of pyramids, we can't always tell unless the dimensions are provided, whether it's rectangular or square. So you can't go wrong by calling it rectangular because you know for sure it's a rectangle because you can see it's four-sided and it's got right angles. We'll only be dealing with pyramids that are right pyramids that have all right angles on the bases if it's a square or a rectangle. So you don't need to worry about us trying to trick you with like a trapezoidal prism or something like that. It's not something we do, or a trapezoidal pyramid. Not something we'll do for this unit. So let's compare a couple of different prisms. I already showed you previously this prism. So this would be a triangular prism. And the reason it's triangular is its base is a triangle. And again, no matter what, its lateral faces are rectangular. In this situation, this would be a pentagonal prism. Again, we name our prism on the number of sides on the base. Again, when you look at the number of sides on the base, you can clearly see that it's got 5 sides on the base, and that's how many lateral faces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lateral faces. So you can't always see it in a two-dimensional picture, but you could certainly make that work. All right, so we'll go ahead and take a look at our last prism, which would be a hexagonal prism, and it'll follow the same guidelines where it's got a hexagon base and then 6 lateral faces. Moving forward to take a look at our pyramids, I have a couple of pyramids I'm going to show you, and you'll see that we talked about the rectangular pyramid. It's got a rectangular base. So now your triangular pyramid, and this one's super easy to identify because every face and every base are all triangles, okay? And you can see that this particular pyramid has a triangular base and then triangular lateral faces, so very clearly a triangular pyramid. But when you look at this guy, it still has those triangular faces you can see, but when you count at the bottom, it's got 5 sides on the base, which makes it a pentagonal pyramid, okay? Now, when we take a look at our polyhedrons, a lot of times we want to see what the composition of them is. So what we actually have is a way to look at the figures. These are some really neat manipulatives. I can take out the color and unfold it. And you can see that it's made up of these 4 separate triangles and then the 1 rectangular base. All right, and so we're going to kind of explore that a little bit. I want to show you the same thing with this hexagonal prism. Look at that, it unfolds. And so you can see all the different shapes that are made. You can see the 2 congruent bases, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rectangular faces. So hopefully today, a couple of things that I wanted you to get out of this video was that a polyhedron is constructed of only polygons. Now, there are a couple other 3-dimensional shapes that you're familiar with, like a sphere or a ball, okay? But also, you're familiar with this guy. So this looks a lot like a prism because it does have 2 congruent bases. But what you're going to notice is this is a cylinder. Okay, because it has those round edges, you can't call it a prism because a prism must be constructed with a polygon base. And since this is a circular base, this would be a cylinder. The other 3-dimensional figure that you're certainly aware of is a cone. And a cone is similar, it's got a circular base, but it's pointy at the top. So some people might confuse this for a pyramid, but the reason it's not a pyramid or not a polyhedron is because its base is a circle. All right, so at the end of this video, you should be very clear that a polyhedron is constructed only of polygons, and that a cone and a cylinder, they're not polyhedrons or polyhedra, because they don't have a polygon base. They have a circular base or a curved lateral surface instead of separate shapes around the outside edge. All right, so hopefully at this time you'll be able to complete the questions that follow this video, and I thank you for sticking around.